Welcome dear viewers to Poetry Blows Our Blues Away. Friends, all of us saw the shocking spectacle of our laborer brothers and sisters walking miles together in an unending procession to their native places during COVID lockdown. That heart-rending picture is still green in our memory. Our hearts went out to them. Our hearts bled for them, and many of us competed to relieve them of their suffering by providing them food, clothing, and shelter. But what we provided them was only superficial help. Do we really recognize their work, recognize their worth? Do we realize that their sweat yields sweet results for us? In this context, I would like to discuss Tagore's Leave This Chanting, verse number 11 from his GITANJALI. Tagore, as you all know, won the Nobel Prize for Literature. He was the first Asian to win the Nobel Prize for Literature. And GITANJALI means song offerings, a tribute to God in the form of songs. So this is verse number 11 from his GITANJALI, Leave This Chanting. This is written in free verse, and Tagore's GITANJALI can be categorized as devotional poetry, bhakti poetry. Now let me read out the poem. The opening lines. Leave this chanting and singing and telling of beads. Whom dost thou worship in this lonely dark corner of the temple with doors all shut? Open thine eyes and see, God is not there before thee. Tagore is telling a die-hard devotee here. He is addressing a die-hard devotee to quit his chanting, to quit his monotonous, repetitious chanting of the mantras. Chanting and singing and telling of beads, singing bhajans. Telling of beads means counting the beads in the rosary, japmala. Leave it, quit it. Why are you wasting your time sitting in a dark, lonely corner of a temple with doors shut and eyes shut? It's futile. You will not find God there. God cannot be confined to temples. Tagore asks him to open his eyes and see that God is not there. God does not appear to him. God is not there in front of his eyes. Tagore tells him right in his face, open thine eyes and see, God is not there before you, before thee. That's what Tagore says. Shocking lines, shocking and very radical lines, aren't they? Now we come to the next lines. He is there where the tiller is tilling the hard ground and where the path maker is breaking stones. He is with them in sun and shower. Having told the devotee, God does not appear to him if he sits and chants in a dark and lonely corner of a temple, Tagore now tells him where to find God. He asserts firmly that God is there with the tiller, the plowman, the farmer, where he is cultivating the ground, the field, to produce golden crop. God is with the tiller, tells him. He shows him, he leads him to where God is. And he also says God is there with the path maker, where the path maker is breaking stones. Tagore has selected these two activities, plowing and path making, because these are very tough tasks. They represent all kinds of hard work, all kinds of labor, drudgery. So God is with them in sun and shower, sunshine and rain, in spring and winter, in all climes and in all times. God never leaves them, because God is always with the karma yogis, with the suffering. So that's where to find God. Now we come to the next lines. And his garment is covered with dust. put off thy holy mantle, and even like him, come down on the dusty soil. So here once again Tagore gives a clarion call to the devotee to put off his garment, to put off his holy robes, whatever snow white robes or saffron robes he might be wearing. Remove your holy mantle, because God's own garments are covered with dust, says Tagore. So following God's own footsteps, come down and descend the temple steps to the dusty soil. Don't be afraid of soiling your clothes. God himself has gone there. He is not there in the temple. Tagore is literally dragging the devotee from the lonely and dark corner of the temple to where the tiller and pathmaker are. So come down on the dusty soil. These are very powerful words. What Tagore means to say here is that the devotee should open his eyes and see the ground realities. He shouldn't shun this side of life. See, by shutting doors, sitting indoors, shutting doors and shutting eyes, this is a symbolic shutting too. He should open his eyes and join and mingle with the workers, participate in their work. Only then he can experience God, because God himself is there taking part in their hard work. Sometimes worshipping indoors with following all the rituals, sitting alone and spending hours together in rituals, in performing rituals, hardens your heart. You have to mingle with people and know their joys and sorrows. So that's what Swami Vivekananda did. That's why he knew India in and out. When Tagore says God's own garment is covered with dust, I am reminded of a description in Bhagavatam about Krishna, the cowherd and the charioteer, smeared all over with the dust raised by the hooves of the horses and the cattle, and his brow full of beads of perspiration. He looked very beautiful in this way to Bhishma. So we come to the next lines. Deliverance. Where is deliverance to be found? Where is this deliverance to be found? Our Master himself has joyfully taken upon him the bonds of creation. He is bound with us forever. He is bound with us forever. Having shown the devotee where to find God, Tagore now addresses his questions about deliverance. Usually devotees are bothered. Devotees pray to God for deliverance. Obvious. Mukti, moksha, liberation, freedom from the cycle of birth and death. Tagore asks him not to bother about deliverance, because our Master himself, God himself, is bound with us eternally in this bond of creation. As long as creation is there, God is with us. So why bother about salvation? He himself is in bonds. So don't bother about salvation or mukti or liberation at all, tells Tagore. We come to the next lines. Come out of thy meditations and leave aside thy flowers and incense. What harm is there if thy clothes become tattered and stained? Meet him and stand by him in toil and in sweat of thy brow. Once again, Tagore rouses the devotee and asks him to come out of his meditations, come out of the stupor, and brush aside the flowers and incense sticks and the lamps, whatever the paraphernalia of worship. It doesn't help, it doesn't work. On the other hand, it hinders our progress, spiritual progress. Join the tiller, the breaker of stones. No harm if your clothes are tattered and stained. And smeared with dust, stained, torn and tainted, tattered and stained, torn and tainted. Doesn't matter, because we meet God in our toil and in the sweat of our brow. See, if the beads of perspiration appear on our brows as a result of our hard work, there we experience God. Doesn't the poem redefine bhakti, devotion, or worship? Here, isn't it startling and unsettling? That's what I felt, friends. I was jolted out of my stupor when I read this poem. So, here Tagore is trying to put things in the right perspective, and Tagore is showing us the right path to reach God. In another context, Tagore rightly says, when God waits for his temple to be built of love, men bring stones. Love is the material with which we should build the temple, not stones. So we come to the takeaway from the poem. What is he actually trying to convey through the poem? Tagore here is strongly advocating work as worship. There is no substitute to work. Work is the best form of worship, only form of worship. Often we shun hard work and look down upon the laborers, the hardworking people, as laborers and coolies. We consider them, we look down upon them. We consider manual work as mean work, menial work, mean work. Tagore tells that God is amidst them, amidst those hardworking people. God resides. In a way, this verse sums up the essence of the Gita, doesn't it? This is an eye-opener poem to all of us who blindly and ignorantly follow rituals. In spirituality, the spirit is more important than the ritual, isn't it? So if we overemphasize the rituals, we will be missing God. It defies our purpose. Our purpose is God realization, but we will be missing God if we overemphasize rituals. Kabir also rightly says, our hands may be turning, the fingers may be turning the beads in the Japmala, and our lips will be uttering God's name, but our mind will be wandering here, there, and everywhere. So let us not indulge too much in rituals. And after reading the poem, let us make physical work to an integral part of our daily routine. Instead of visiting the gyms, artificially working out, the artificial workout areas, let us make physical labor to an integral part of our daily routine. This is what I learnt from Tagore's poem. This is how I understand and interpret it. So from now onwards, after reading the poem, we don't look down upon our garbage collector, our maidservant, or the street sweeper, or the vegetable vendor, any hardworking person. We respect the dignity of labor. So that's the poem, and see you soon with yet another brilliant poem. Till then, happy poetry reading.